customized screens for windows and doors. Murphy's can rekey locks, and of course they can make keys. They cut glass for windows, plus Murphy's has monthly doorbuster specials. Check their Facebook page to see what's on sale. Murphy's Builder Supply, 156 Northeast Broad Street, Jessup.
Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings restaurant in Jessup is now open for business, practicing social distancing, but still serving that great food that Damon's is famous for. Come inside or come through the drive-thru, but Damon's is open inside and welcomes back its customers. The menu's the same, the service is fast, and the food is fantastic, and the sauces remain the same, mild, wild, insane, or inferno. The number is the same, 588-WING, 588-9464. Damon's Restaurant on West Cherry Street in Jessup. Dining room now open for business. Come on in and enjoy a great meal today.
A bank that puts people first. First Southern Bank, investing in you since 1907. Serving Jessup, Patterson, and Waycross. A true community bank led by experienced neighborhood bankers that live and work in our community. Offering competitive loan options for commercial and consumer clients. Stop by the Jessup branch and meet branch manager Mandy Yeomans and her fantastic team. Call 912-810-1540. Let First Southern Bank be your bank of choice. First Southern Bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
8:02 here at the Big Dog, WIFO. Butch and Bob Show brought to you by Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings, First Southern Bank, and Murphy Builder Supply.
And we got a special guest on the phone with us today on the world famous Butch and Bob Show. First is Congressman Buddy Carter with us today. Buddy, always good to talk to you. Appreciate you being here on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Bob.
Well, first of all, let's start. Your race is set. Joyce Marie Griggs defeated Lisa Ring, 15,904 votes to 12,599 across the district. Wayne County also voted for Griggs, 258 to 155. But that race is now set. Your thoughts on the upcoming race in November?
Well, we were looking forward to debating our opponent and to comparing ourselves on the issues. I think there's a stark contrast between what she believes and what we believe, and the way that we see the first district and the way that she sees the first district. And certainly, you know, I have a record to run on. I've had the honor and privilege of representing the first district for the last 6 years. I'm very proud of the work that my staff and I have done over that 6 years, and we want to continue. We want to continue the growth. These are trying times, as we all know, with the pandemic going on. We need strong leadership. We need to make sure that we get our economy back to where it was before this pandemic started. And I believe that if we have conservative values and we're led by conservative issues, that we'll be able to do that.
When I go back to, you were in town Monday speaking to the Wayne County Republican Party, and an interesting issue came up that I find interesting. There are a lot of people there that rent property, and they said that the people that they rent to are receiving their money, but they're not paying their rent, but they have no authority to evict those people for not paying their rent. You said that you're going to check into that. What have you been able to find out about that issue?
Well, we have checked into it, and we are finding that it is indeed a problem. And the property owners, the landlords, do have I think, a legitimate concern there. Certainly, the eviction part of the eviction protection was intended to make sure, of course, that people weren't evicted because they didn't have the ability to pay. But now we see where a lot of people are abusing that, and that's really a shame. And it's not only in this area, but it's in a number of different areas. We've had the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program. It's been such a great program. Unfortunately, there has been some abuse of that program, and we know that happens, and we knew that was going to happen. And same thing with people paying their rent. There are some people who can afford to pay their rent, and if they were to get their priorities in order, they would pay their rent, but they're not doing that. So we're looking at seeing how we can put some protections in for the landlords and for the property owners, because they certainly need the protection as well.
It just seemed like an interesting issue. I had no idea that was going on, but like I said, the frustration is they can't get the renters to pay their rent, but they have no authority to get them out of the building. So seemed like an interesting issue. Another topic I want to talk to you about, I've been to school board meeting, county meeting, city meeting, and all I hear about is this CARES Act money that everybody's getting, and the numbers are just astronomical. Where's all this money coming from? I mean, this is just one county out of 159, and we're just one state. This is taking place all across the country. So are they just printing money left and right up there? Where's all this money coming from? Who's going to pay this money back?
Well, the people who are going to pay this money back are not born yet. They're our grandchildren's grandchildren.
I see. So we're just going to pass it down to them.
Yeah, and I know they appreciate us doing that. But it is really a problem. Listen, before this pandemic started, we had $23 trillion in debt. Now we're around $26 trillion in debt. Now, having said that, I will tell you, we've had 3.5 packages. I say a half package because the fourth package was just simply more money for the third package, so we don't really count it as a full package. But we've had 3.5 packages, and we've spent $3 trillion. And, you know, that is a lot of money. And now, having said that, I will tell you, I voted for all 3.5 of those packages, and if I had to do it again, I'd vote for them again. They were necessary. People were hurting. This is something none of us have ever experienced before. I get it. I understand that. People need help. But at the same time, we've got to think about what we're doing here. This is not monopoly money. This is real money that's got to be paid back here. And adding that much debt is really of a concern to me. Now we're talking about another package with anywhere from $1 to $3 trillion more. Well, you know, I hesitate about that. I hesitate to say that I'm going to support it. I'm not saying I'm not. I'm not saying I am yet. I have to see it first. But I will tell you this. I would subscribe to the theory that we need to wait and see the impact of this $3 trillion and how it does before we go adding more to it. There's $1 trillion of that $3 trillion that still hasn't even gone out yet. And yet we're talking about adding more to it. So I wish we could just slow down a little bit and say, okay, let's see where we're at. Let's see where this $3 trillion, what good it did, and then let's address some concerns.
Is there any way to trace where that money is that hasn't been picked up yet or hasn't been sent out yet? I mean, they said that's
oh, yeah.
I mean, so
yeah, they know where it is. They know where it is. A lot of it is in Health and Human Services. You know, at one point a couple of weeks ago, we had over $100 billion that was still in Health and Human Services. We've got $100 billion that's still in the PPP program that still hasn't been claimed. Now, the application for that ended last Saturday. So that $100 billion, what happens to it? Where is it going to go? Is it going to go back into the Treasury? I certainly hope it is. If we need more for the next package, will that be used for that? I certainly hope it will. So those are the kind of questions that I think need to be answered.
And they're talking about another package, but apparently the Democrats and Republicans can't see eye to eye. So the president, as you talked about this on Monday, signed some executive orders. You said you were hesitant about that because Congress is supposed to do that, but apparently they can't get on the same page. So what's going to take place? Is there going to be a compromise in the next couple of days, or is it just going to go with the executive orders by the president? What do you see is going to happen? And you know, a lot of people are asking about the stimulus. You know, they got one stimulus check for $1,200. Is there going to be another one coming, or you keep seeing it on the internet, but no final answer on that. So where do we stand on all that?
Well, that remains to be seen. You are correct. Last Friday, the president issued 4 executive orders, and I applaud the president for what he did. I think that what the president was trying to do was trying to rattle the cage, was trying to shake things loose, was trying to shake the negotiations loose and get them started again because they are at an impasse. However, having said that, I will tell you that I do have reservations about any president issuing executive orders. As you just said, it is the responsibility of Congress, of the legislative branch, to spend the money. It is not the responsibility of the executive branch. And if this president in my party can do it, then a president in another party can do it. So that brings me some concern. Now, again, I applaud the president because I think what he was trying to do was just to shake things up. The 4 people who were involved in the negotiations, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Mark Meadows, and Steve Mnuchin, they are in an impasse now. I'm not even sure they're meeting right now. And until they can get something worked out, if they get something worked out, there is no guarantee we will have another package, especially in this time of year when we've got a presidential election coming up, because neither party is going to let the other party claim a win. That's just not going to happen in Washington, D.C. Nobody can be perceived as a winner in this. But if they can come together and we can get another package, then I do want to see the things that need to be addressed be addressed. If we need more money for diagnostics, for testing, if we need more money for therapeutics, for drugs, if we need more money for vaccinations, then let's look at it and let's see what we need to do.
Well, where the executive orders go through, because the Democrats are saying it's unconstitutional, they're going to fight in court. So where do we stand on that? I mean, the president made the announcement, and people were thinking they're going to get money. So are they going to get money, or is it all going to be tied up in court?
Well, I suspect that they will challenge it, and I suspect that it will be tied up in court. I don't know that for certain, but I do think that that's what will happen, is that they will challenge those executive orders, and that it will be held up in court. And of course, the 4 executive orders, one was to address the student loans, which we suspended the student loans until the end of September. The president wants to suspend them until the end of the year. Another had to do with unemployment insurance. As of July 31st, they were getting $600 a week, and that ended. The Democrats wanted to continue with the $600. The Republicans wanted it to be $200. The president said, I'm going to split it down the middle. I'm going to give you $400. And then we had in there with the evictions that we talked about earlier, extending the exemption on the evictions, and then the payroll tax. The president has suspended the payroll tax for those people who earn less than $100,000. And I will tell you that that's an interesting concept, because it does impact Social Security, yes, and we need to be concerned about that. However, that is somewhat of an incentive to get people back to work, because if you can go back to work and you don't have to pay payroll tax, that means you can get more money in your paycheck. So it's kind of a double bonus, if you will, because not only does it give people an incentive to go back to work, but it gives them more money in their paycheck.
And if you're just joining us on the phone with us, first is your Congressman Buddy Carter. Joe Biden selected as vice presidential candidate. Your thoughts on the choice, and this race is right around the corner. I mean, November's going to be here before you know it. And I'm curious with the bickering back and forth in Washington between the Democrats and the Republicans. Who do you think that's going to affect more when people start heading to the voting booth?
Well, you're right. It is right around the corner. It'll be here before we know it. But at the same time, there's still a ways to go, and I suspect the polls will change a couple of times before it's all said and done. I thought that Kamala Harris was, that this completes, I should say, the radicalization of the Democratic ticket. Joe Biden has chosen one of the most liberal senators in the Senate when he chose Kamala Harris, and now we've got a stark contrast between the two choices here, between Biden, Harris, and between Trump and Pence. And I think it's a clear choice for people to look at and to decide. A lot depends on our economy. A lot depends on what happens. It's funny. I think I said this Monday when I spoke to the group. Ever since March, every 2 weeks I've been saying the same thing. The next 2 weeks are crucial. The next 2 weeks are crucial. And they are. The next 2 weeks are always crucial during this pandemic. I believe, I'm one who believes that this pandemic's going to end the first week in November. It'll end after the presidential election. But, until that time, we just got to deal with it and do the best we can.
You just put a big smile on Jonathan's face, because Jonathan's been saying that the same thing for the last several months. But the coronavirus continues to be the main story, though. Here in the state of Georgia, the death rate is out of control the last couple of days. People are, decisions are being made about schools, about sports seasons. You just saw the Big Ten and the Pac-12 shut it down, and now they're wondering what's going to happen with the SEC, ACC. It was interesting. The president was on our morning show, Clay Travis, from 6 to 9. He was on Clay Travis's sports show this week and had a lot of interesting comments. He wants to see football take place. He thinks kids need to be in school. So where do you stand on all these issues? Again, all these decisions are being made across the district, and everybody's doing their own different thing. That's the one frustration I've said from day one. There's no consistency across the board. There's not one person making a decision. I mean, I don't know where my state school board is, but why we have a state school board committee if they can't make a decision? I mean, they just pass the buck to the local board. So, I mean, the frustration is there's nobody leading this pandemic. Nobody's given one single message, no matter what level it's on. Everybody's out there doing their own thing, making their own decisions, and everybody's scared to make a decision. So your thoughts on all that?
Well, let me preface my remarks by saying that health is paramount. There's no question about that. As a healthcare professional, I will tell you that if you got your health, you got everything. And we have to be careful We have to be very, very careful the way we approach this because we always have to keep health in mind. However, having said that, I will tell you, we're never going to get our economy going again until we get our schools open, until we get our daycares open, because we're not going to have the workforce. It's not going to be there. We have to get our schools open. We have to get our daycares open. As a legislator, I don't have the luxury of just looking at the health aspect of it. Yes, it is the most important part of it, and yes, it is paramount, as I said. However, there are other things we have to consider. We have to consider the health of our economy. We have to consider the mental state of our citizens. I'm convinced that a lot of the social unrest that we've got going on right now is due to people being cooped up. And I'm concerned about kids missing this much school. I'm very concerned about, I think it's just awful, and I know you agree with this, Bob, that the kids miss spring sports, and now it looks as if they're going to miss the fall sports. If you're a senior in high school, you can't make that up, and that's one of the most memorable parts of your life, and it's just a shame. Now, having said all that, again, we revert back to health is paramount, and it is the most important thing. So these are difficult decisions. There's no question about that. And to your point about the local decisions, well, you know, I would somewhat differ on that because I do believe that the best decisions are decisions that are made at the local level. Now, I know we need to have some general guidance here, and I agree with you. Sometimes I don't feel like we see enough of that. But at the same time, I've always said what's good for Wayne County may not necessarily be what's good for Gwinnett County or for Fulton County or for Brantley County. So we have to keep that in mind, and that's just, these are tough decisions. There's no question about it.
They're definitely difficult decisions, but some of these decisions are life-altering decisions. Like I said, all those kids last year, the seniors, they missed out on their senior sports season, so a lot of scholarship opportunities were lost by the wayside. I told this story earlier, and I said I had a nephew that's a pretty talented athlete up in Virginia, and my sister's just irate because they've already shut down their fall football season. So he's kind of that borderline kid on whether or not he could get a scholarship at the collegiate level, but in order for him to do that, he's got to be seen on tape and in games, but unfortunately that's not going to take place. So, I mean, he's just one example, but, I mean, that's taking place all across the country. I mean, some of these decisions are just changing the life of, you know, a lot of kids. So, and like I said, we saw the impact that it had in this past senior season where kids missed out on prom and, fortunately we had the graduation ceremony, but watching all the experts on TV, they say that in-school interaction is just far better than sitting home in front of a computer and doing virtual. I mean, all the medical experts, everybody you talk to in the professional education said that's, the statistics don't lie, that in-school is much better than virtual. So,
and if I could just add this, Bob, and I apologize, my numbers are a little bit aged here, because a couple of weeks ago we had a conference call with the health subcommittee that I serve on with Dr. Robert Redfield, who is the director of the CDC in Atlanta. And granted, again, these are dated numbers, but they're still, I think, accurate. At that time, we had 147,000 people who had died of the COVID-19 pandemic here in America. Now, that's 147,000 too many. We all agree with that. Of that 147,000, 52 were 18 and younger. 52. Now, that's 52 too many. I get it. But Dr. Redfield told us at that time that all 52 of those children had a pre-existing condition. In other words, the chances of an 18-year-old or younger dying of COVID-19 are almost non-existent. Now, anyone who dies, that's a tragedy. There's no question about it. And we certainly extend our thoughts and prayers to all the families who've lost loved ones. But the point is that it's not impacting children. Now, I get it with teachers. I get it with the children going home and interacting with parents and grandparents. But there are ways that we can control that. And if we can control that, are we really benefiting the children here? Does the solution really outweigh the risk here?
And it's going to be interesting. Let's say Wayne County's up in the air right now on what they're going to do. Are they going to have a meeting on Tuesday at 6 p.m. to decide how schools and when schools will open? So they got 3 options on the table. So we'll see how that plays out. Another topic you talked about when you were in town on Monday, I thought you made an excellent point. You know, you look at what's happening in Portland. I mean, it doesn't get a lot of airtime anymore, but it's still ongoing, and I have no idea what the end game is there. But I would hate to have a business on that street where all that craziness taking place. But you made a point, you know, tip your cap to Glenn County. You know, what happened to Ahmaud Arbery was a tragic thing, but they protested peacefully. I mean, they didn't graffiti any buildings. They didn't destroy any property. They just protested peacefully, and they said they're getting their message across. So I thought you made a good point about that. Just talk about that a little bit. And what's going on in Portland? I mean, what's the end game there? How long is that going to take place before it ends? Have any idea?
Well, I don't. Of course, I think the federal troops have left now, and I think they've got they've got somewhat better control of what's going on in Portland right now. But I tell you, they got a mess. They got a mess all out west, up and down the coast. California is a mess, but the riots, the looting, the destruction that's taking place right now in Portland is certainly not helping things, and certainly not productive at all. And yes, you're correct. Listen, what happened to Ahmaud Arbery down in Brunswick and Glenn County was a tragedy. This was a young man who died way too young, and that should never happen in our country. What happened to George Floyd should never happen in our country. However, the way that we react, the way that we respond is important. The way that they responded in Minneapolis with looting, with rioting, with destruction, as compared to what happened in Brunswick, where we had protests, as we should have protests. But they were peaceful protests, and they were productive protests. And I do credit the leadership, the community leaders, the African-American leaders, as well as the white leaders in Glenn County, who stepped up and stepped forward and showed great leadership and kept things calm. And now we're getting results. We're seeing production down there, and we're seeing results of those protests. So it makes me very proud of the 1st District. But I will tell you what is happening in Portland, what has happened in Minneapolis, and throughout our country concerns me greatly. This idea of defunding the police, I don't know that I've ever heard a more ludicrous idea before in my life.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. I joked with Bill Werkheiser, our state representative. I said what they need to do is anybody's in favor of defunding the police, get their name and number and put them in a database, and when they call 911, the police don't have to show up. So I think people go with that. Can you get that passed in Congress?
I don't know about that.
I mean, if that's what they want. I mean, if they don't want the police to show up, then they don't want to fund the police, then why should the police show up when they need them? And it was
if I introduced something like that, I think I'd get some attention. I tell you.
Well, what was the funniest thing I saw? I mean, it's not funny, but I can't remember where it was, but they were protesting, like I said, destroying property and all that. And a guy in a BMW drove by, and they threw a rock at his car, and he stopped, and he came back, and when he was in reverse, you could hear the protesters yelling, "Call the police! Call the police!" I was like, "No, you can't call the police. You're trying to defund the police." So I thought that was kind of funny. But again, this pandemic's not fun. It's not funny. A lot going on. I said that. But one thing I got to ask you, you listen to the talking heads. They've got debate set up between the president, Trump, and Joe Biden. But the question is, will those debates take place? There's still a lot of people who think those will never take place. What are you hearing in Washington? Will those debates take place? Will we see President Trump and Joe Biden debate? Will we see Ms. Harris and Mike Pence debate, or do you think that's all going to be taken away?
Well, I do think Kamala Harris and Mike Pence have got one debate set up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I think that will take place. It remains to be seen whether Joe Biden comes out of his basement and debates the president. I talked to some of my colleagues about this last night, and we were discussing that, and I don't see how he wins either way. If he comes out and debates the president, I think the president will just eat his lunch. But that's my opinion. But at the same time, if he decides not to debate, I think that hurts him. I think it hurts him a lot. So either way, I think that it will benefit the president. Now, I think it would be a disservice to the American citizens if he didn't debate. I get it, but look, we can arrange for social distancing. We can arrange for it to be a safe debate. So there really is no excuse why the American people shouldn't have both of these potential, or these candidates and potential presidents debate and hear what they have to say.
I'm going to end on this note. Another topic we talked about on Monday, I had it during my interview with you, and you made a good point. The state of Georgia, you can't just assume that it's going to President Trump. There's a lot of people that moved in the state. The governor's race was a dogfight, so the president's race is going to be a dogfight. But here's my question to you, Congressman. I don't know if you're frustrated as I am, but why don't people vote in this country? We saw it in the runoffs just this past Tuesday. I mean, we've got 30,000 people in Wayne County, 16,000 registered, and less than 3,000 showed up for a sheriff's race. So hopefully that's not going to be the case in November, because, as you mentioned, this is one of the most important races taking place in our lifetime. But why do you think people don't take the time to vote, and all of a sudden they're crushing Trump because he's trying to attack the post office? The conspiracy is that he thinks he's going to lose with all the absentee ballots and things like that. So first of all, where do you stand on the post office and people voting early, and why don't people vote?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the absentee versus the mail-in ballots. Now, I've used the absentee ballots many times, and I have to, because oftentimes I'll be out of town and I have to vote absentee because I can't vote in person. So I've used the absentee ballots, and I don't think there's any problem with the absentee ballot. I do have concerns about mail-in ballots because I have concern about fraud, and I've witnessed that concern firsthand, and a couple of my colleagues out in California who, and one in particular that I can think about, because they had the ballot harvesting out there, which is somewhat similar to the mail-out ballots, and he was 6 percentage points ahead at 10 o'clock Pacific time. The AP called it in his favor. Well, they kept on counting votes until he finally ultimately ended up losing. And that's the kind of fraud that can happen when you have mail-in ballots. Now, again, I'm not talking about absentee ballots. I'm talking about mail-in ballots. The same thing happened in North Carolina, and we've got people in jail right now because it's against the law. What's legal in California is against the law in North Carolina. So, it would appear that we need to have something consistent throughout the country on this. Why do people not vote? That just baffles me. It is one of the greatest rights that we have as Americans. We have our veterans who we appreciate so much, and we thank them for their service. They have fought for our country, fought for our freedoms. And one of the greatest freedoms that we have is the freedom to vote, to choose who our elected officials are going to be, to choose who's going to represent us. Why we don't get out and vote, why people don't vote, is beyond me. If we're not going to do it for ourselves, then just do it in honor of those veterans who have given up so much and in some cases given their life to fight for our right to vote.
Well, I don't know who said it, but they said it best. Elections have consequences. So, again, if you don't get out and make your voice and vote known, I mean, it's just a sad situation. But apparently, hopefully there'll be a big turnout come November. It's going to be an interesting race. Like I said, it'll be fun to watch the debates. But the race is now on, and your race is on as well. So, got to ask you, ask all the candidates to come in. During the pandemic, how do you get out and get your message across? Do you still have functions where people show up, or how's that work? In the first district, say, how do you go about campaigning between now and November?
Well, a lot of it is virtual now. We have a lot of virtual Rotary Club meetings. We have a lot of virtual Exchange Club meetings. So a lot of it is through virtual. But we still get out. I'm still out in the district. Monday, as you mentioned, I was in Wayne County. Tuesday, I was in Liberty County. Yesterday, I was in Bryan County. Today, we're going to be in Chatham County, and I think tomorrow I'll be in Chatham County as well. So we still get throughout the district. In the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be in deep South Georgia and deep part of the southern part of the district. So we still get out. We still get, the crowds are not as big. There's no question about that. But there are some people that still get out, and as long as we can social distance and wear a mask, then we should be okay.
Okay, buddy. Well, again, we always appreciate your time. Again, hopefully we'll get you in the studio soon. We'll follow these elections up till November. But again, wish you the best of luck, and I appreciate you being here on the show. And like I said, thanks for giving us your time this morning.
Thank you, Bob. Always a pleasure.
Okay, again, those comments first, District Congressman Buddy Carter. We'll be back to wrap it up right after this.
Murphy's Builder Supply is where you need to go for all your home improvement projects and hardware needs. They've been serving folks in this area since 1946. Murphy's offers some products and services that you may not know about. They now sell ammunition, both bullets and shells. Murphy's also sells personalized tags for dog collars. They build customized screens for windows and doors. Murphy's can rekey locks, and of course they can make keys. They cut glass for windows, plus Murphy's has monthly doorbuster specials. Check their Facebook page to see what's on sale. Murphy's Builder Supply, 156 Northeast Broad Street, Jessup.
Damon's Famous Fingers and Wings restaurant in Jessup is now open for business, practicing social distancing, but still serving that great food that Damon's is famous for. Come inside or come through the drive-thru, but Damon's is open inside and welcomes back its customers. The menu's the same, the service is fast, and the food is fantastic, and the sauces remain the same, mild, wild, insane, or inferno. The number is the same, 588-WING, 588-9464. Damon's Restaurant on West Cherry Street in Jessup. Dining room now open for business. Come on in and enjoy a great meal today.
A bank that puts people first. First Southern Bank, investing in you since 1907. Serving Jessup, Patterson, and Waycross. A true community bank led by experienced neighborhood bankers that live and work in our community. Offering competitive loan options for commercial and consumer clients. Stop by the Jessup branch and meet branch manager Mandy Yeomans and her fantastic team. Call 912-810-1540. Let First Southern Bank be your bank of choice. First Southern Bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back. Just some final notes on the world-famous Butch and Bob Show. Again, just a reminder that Wayne County residents, the Wayne County Open House, which was originally scheduled for today at 3 p.m., has been pushed back to next Thursday, August 20th at 3 p.m., so keep that in mind. And again, the big news in Wayne County is right now no one knows when and how Wayne County schools are going to open up. The school board has a meeting set for this coming Tuesday at 6 p.m., and again, there's three options currently they're discussing. The first option is to remain as scheduled August 24th, with the students already having determined whether or not they're going to go in school or virtual. Again, that deadline was Tuesday at 4 p.m., has not been extended. Option two is to push school back after Labor Day and begin on September 8th. And the third option is to go simply all virtual. So, again, the school board discussed that this past Tuesday, voted to have another meeting this Tuesday at 6 p.m. to make a final decision. WIFO-FM will be at that meeting on Tuesday and have the full report next Wednesday. And that's going to do it for today's world-famous Butch and Bob Show. Again, I want to thank Congressman Buddy Carter for giving us this time. Hope you enjoyed that show, and we'll be back tomorrow with another show here on Big Dog Country, FM 105.5. And the Braves, fortunately, don't play the Yankees tonight. They got the day off, and they'll play the Fish tomorrow.